By the late 1800s, most of Europe had industrialized. However, Russia had made little progression and was still using past systems of Europe. This did not bode well for them when they entered World War One.
Russia was long past the former glory it had achieved under the reign of Ivan III from 1462 to 1505. The closest it had come was under the rule of Alexander II from 1855 to 1881, who supplied the most changes Russia had seen for hundreds of years.
Since 1801, Russia had had a very conservative and minimalistic approach to the way it had conducted its affairs, still using the manor system and employing serfs. Alexander II completed the most important change of the 19th century, freeing the serfs. This paved way for the possibility of future industrialization and other changes.
One of the problems of Russia in 1917 was the diversity of its subjects. In the country that covered one-fifth of the Earth's surface, there were approximately 395 nationalities and 109 languages. Due to this extreme diversity, Tsar Nicholas II had trouble uniting all of the people living in Russia as one nationality, and was searching for an answer. He believed that one way was through war.
In 1904, Russia declared war on Japan, thinking that a tiny country would stand no chance against Russia. However, over 31,000 Russian soldiers died in the war, a blow that would set off a chain of events that would transform Russia forever.
After the horrific losses that Russia suffered in the Russo-Japanese War, the Tsar realized that some changes must be made. When peasants from all over Russia marched to the Winter Palace to protest the war, they had no violent intentions. However, when a miscommunication occurred between the Tsar and his soldiers, the Cossacks, they began shooting on the crowd, resulting in approximately 13 people dying, with others wounded. With pressure for change piling up on Nicholas, he relented and began the formation of the Duma, an elected body of representatives from all over Russia.
When Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria on June 28, 1914, he surely had no idea what would result from his actions. Shortly afterwards, Austria declared war on Serbia, and World War I had begun. In response, Russia backed Serbia and declared war on Austria.
Russia had many reasons for doing this. Firstly, because of the similarity in religion. Both Russia and Serbia were Orthodox Christian, and Russia had a desire to protect its religion. Secondly, because of Russia's extreme diversity, Tsar Nicholas II still was looking for a way to unify Russia's many different nationalities, and he had not learned from his mistakes in the Russo-Japanese War. Furthermore, Russia wanted to prove to its Serbian subject nationalities that it looked out for their interests and their homeland.
When Russia entered World War I for the defense of Serbia, it had positive expectations and was hopeful of a win to unite its people. However, the results were more tragic than what anyone expected. But once Russia committed to war, it was very opposed to backing out, even after numerous defeats and terrible losses. Between 1914 and 1917, Russia lost between 5 and 8 million people, some because of fighting in the war, and others at home of starvation.
The extreme amount of casualties faced by Russia in World War I was the last straw for Tsar Nicholas II, and during the February Revolution of 1917, on his way to being overthrown, he abdicated, leaving the Duma and Alexander Kerensky in charge. The Duma had never been given any real power before this, and now faced the daunting task of ruling the country.
Alexander Kerensky was a socialist member of the Duma and found himself in charge of the country. He could have been one of the great leaders of Russia, but made one enormous mistake, staying in World War I. Tsar Nicholas II was thrust out of power for not leaving in the war, and Kerensky would soon be facing the same fate. While Kerensky and the Duma were doing such a despicable job running the country, Germany saw a chance to end Russia's involvement in World War I permanently. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, more commonly known as Lenin, was born and raised in Russia. However, due to his extreme political views, Lenin was exiled from the country and ended up in Germany. Even though he was out of the country, Lenin was still spreading communism throughout Russia with the use of his loyal supporters, the Bolsheviks. They were spread throughout the army and in different parts of the country, inspiring others to join the communist cause. When the situation became apparent to Germany, they escorted Lenin all the way to Moscow, hoping that he would be a large enough distraction into the Duma so Germany could beat Russia. However, they did not anticipate how powerful Lenin would become.
With the Duma, led by Kerensky, still continuing the war effort, the rest of Russia was fed up with it. In October of 1917, the Duma was overthrown and Lenin came into power, creating the first communist country in the world.
We here are proud to announce that we have famed Russian historian John Philip Goodman III here to discuss the impact that World War I had on common citizens. It's an honor to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Now you have to understand, during World War I, Russia was in turmoil. There were bread riots in Petrograd, and people were dying in the streets from starvation. And the people that were sent out to protect them, usually their husbands or brothers, didn't even have guns to fight with. Only 1 out of 10 did. You can see how these conditions led to a revolution that would not only change the face of government in Russia, but the history of the world. When Tsar Nicholas II abdicated and Alexander Kerensky came into power, many of the citizens were hopeful that he would leave World War I. But they felt a really big hatred for him when he did not. And he stayed in World War I, causing more casualties and more death, leading to more starvation of the people. This only increased the conditions of horrible living that these people faced. After World War I, Russia became a communist country, which scared many of the nations around it, including Germany. This led to Germany developing the Nazi Party, or the Nationalist Socialist Party, where Hitler grew and rose to power. And that was the main cause of World War II. Many of the songs that were developed during the war reflected the hardships of the common working man's struggle during this time, such as the Working Man song that you hear playing now.
In 1917, during a time of turmoil in Russia, various countries around the world had distinct opinions of the situation. In the United States, many magazine writers, including William Phillips Sims, a United Press correspondent, felt that Russia was at an all-time low because of the horrific losses it had in World War I. He believed that since the situation couldn't get much worse, it had to improve the conditions of life for everyday Russian citizens. If only he had known what was to become of Russia. If he had, he would not have called Russia in 1917 at the all-time low.